So let's jump into some story-related questions first. How screwed is the Prison Elders? We played the story mode first mission yesterday. Yeah. Is it officially out of business, or what's going on with it?
That's interesting. You mean after this?
Yeah, after.
No, I think we want to repopulate it. Okay. They have some security problems in the reef, but and if old school players will know that there's another guy named Skolas who had escaped from the prison previously, but this is a much bigger riot situation. Yeah. So yeah, no, there's some questions about the reef security, and I'll be talking to people about that.
We're returning to the reef and the Prison of Elders. Does that mean our old pal Varix is going to be back in some way?
Varix has a part to play in this story. It's probably not what people expect, but you will learn about what Varix is up to. So
Cayde-6 is definitely dead, right? Like dead, for sure dead.
Do you want him to be dead?
No, absolutely not.
Oh, well, he's dead.
Is the Forsaken storyline a self-contained tale, or will it connect it to the events of the overall Destiny story in any way?
So at the end of Destiny 2, there's a cinematic scene that shows the Traveler waking up and the light touching Mercury, Mars, and now the reef. And so there's a bit of what's happening that's triggered by some of that. Mm-hmm. And this story taps into the larger Destiny story of Prince Aldrin, Petra, Cayde, obviously. So we're working with both some of those ideas that were expressed at the end of Destiny 2 and characters that people have been wondering what's been going on with them for many years now. And but it's still accessible to everyone. So it's gonna tee off future events as well.
Can you give us any details on why Prince Aldrin is being such a jerk face right now?
I can't, but the story will. So when you play the game, Prince Aldrin, throughout, there's cutscenes, there's new lore that you learn about, first of all, where he's been, what he's been up to, and why he's doing this, and what has caused him to take this different turn that people maybe didn't expect.
So one of the most interesting tidbits from the Forsaken reveal was that there's a new endgame area, the Dreaming City, that would change and kind of be altered based on how players are playing and what they're doing. So can you give us any details on how that works or what people can expect from it?
I sadly cannot, because we really want players to discover it. The thing I can tell you is that the Dreaming City has the, no, you said, I think you said it. The Dreaming City is where the raid is, but it's more than that. It's a whole destination that players can go discover secrets. There's new activities there that do change over time. Why and how that works, we want players to find out.
What can you tell us right now about it? Anything that could be that players can glean from?
Sure, I can tell you that the raid is tied thematically and story-wise to the campaign, so it's not some whole separate thing. It's the culmination of all the stuff you learn about the adventure that we're talking about, and that it's very boss-heavy. We've talked about that too.
Will you use the Forsaken expansion to do any subclass redesign or balance changes? I imagine the new paths and supers are a way to provide a new play experience for people who have gotten used to what they're used to. But will you use that as an opportunity to change anything about the older paths or the older subclasses?
We're focusing on, we have 9 new supers, so every subclass that players have that is possible. If you love your Arc Warlock, you're going to get a new Arc Warlock way to play. And so we're focusing on figuring out how those balance within everything else. Mm-hmm. And then the biggest thing we're doing with the sandbox is changing up the weapon system. And that means that we're rebalancing the ammo and how that works. And so the new weapon system, if you like to play the way Destiny 1 worked, that's awesome. If you liked Destiny 2, that's awesome too. But you can also do other crazier combinations like multiple shotguns.
During the reveal, obviously, you announced that. Could you explain exactly how the weapon slot changes are going to work? Because I've kind of sensed some confusion from the community. Obviously, something I think a lot of people want, but just know exactly how it works. So, for example, what's going to happen to the current loadout of kinetic, energy, and power? For example, you can run power weapons in the first 2 slots, but then how does that change? Like, what is the point of the power slot then at that point, right? So how's all that going to work?
So the power slot is going to house the rockets, the swords, and the linear fusion rifles and the grenade launchers. Okay. All the other weapons, I think, can be done will be assigned to either the primary or secondary slot, which means that a shotgun could drop and it could show up in your first slot or your second slot or your third slot, but they will be assigned to a slot. So you have to figure out based on what's available to you where you want to place things.
So, for example, like Better Devils, right? So that's going to stay as a kinetic first slot weapon, not a power or energy weapon.
There'll still be kinetic and energy, so yes, Better Devils will likely stay where it is. It's possible I'm wrong about that, but my assumption based on the fact that it doesn't have an energy would be that it stays there.
Right, but
the version without an energy, yeah.
You can't run 2 Better Devils, for example.
Yes, unless a Better Devils dropped that was set in that slot, you can't just place anything wherever.
So another point of confusion I'm kind of sensing is that I'm noticing is how weapon randomization is going to work, and how that will apply to year one weapons. So could you provide some clarification on how that will work?
Yeah, so random rolls are a feature that we're introducing for any weapons that are introduced once Forsaken goes and beyond. So that means that the new Forsaken weapons will have it. New seasonal weapons that come for all players will have the random roll system as well. But we're not going back and touching the Destiny 1, so Better Devils, for instance, is going to be Better Devils. However, you can infuse Better Devils to the max power.
So, for example, if a Better Devils drops after Forsaken launches, it's still going to have the same stats that people are used to, correct?
Correct.
Do you have any plans yet for what's going to happen to year one content, such as the Leviathan raid and Escalation Protocol? Will they be brought up to a year two kind of difficulty, or have you guys decided on that yet?
We don't have any announcements about that, but the gear and the loot can be infused up to the max power.
Is there anything about year one, such as how raid content is released, Trials of the Nine, milestones, really anything that's familiar in year one, that is going to be seeing any dramatic changes once year two is started?
Can you give an example? You mean like
how Leviathan was kind of pieced out? We had that one big main raid, then you had two raid layers, or I'm trying to look at my own examples.
I can talk about that one.
Yeah.
So the raid that we have in Forsaken takes place on the Dreaming City and is thematically tied to the story. And then we've announced that we're going to be doing more raid layers, but we're not saying where they are. So as far as if we're going to do them just as part of where this raid is or not, we're not saying it.
What about Trials of the Nine, or just any basic gameplay functions that were like how milestones work? Is that all going to be pretty familiar still?
So for Trials of the Nine, all the PvP Crucible stuff we're going to talk about later in the summer. We are working on the Director and the milestone system, and the Director is going to get an update with new destinations, and we're looking at how we put pursuits in front of players, but we'll be going into detail on that. I'm actually really excited about that, which is why I'm hesitating soon.
So exotic armor changes are coming. Can you tell us any changes that you're loving in playtest right now, or is it still under wraps?
It's still definitely under wraps. Yeah. That'll have its own moment.
So are there any smaller quality of life changes that you have planned that maybe wasn't flashy enough to make it to the reveal trailer, but you wouldn't mind sharing today?
Well, that's interesting. One that I don't think it's in the trailer. Actually, I know it's not in the trailer, but we've talked about is how our shader system's working. So we're going to be able to delete multiple shaders at once. Shaders are going to be stored in the collections, and so that's something that if you're a Destiny player, that's going to be really impactful to you, but it's not a flashy thing you put in a trailer.
So during the reveal stream, the presenters touched on the reality that a lot of players come in short bursts. They play the expansions, kind of see everything, and then some of them drift off. What change of or piece of new content are you most excited about that you think will be most effective in keeping players around for the long term after Forsaken launches?
I think Gambit, our all new mode, is going to be something that is going to be it has a whole new armor set, a whole new weapon set, and an exotic tied to it. In addition, it's just super fun, and so we think that's going to have a lot of staying power. We're also going to be unveiling some stuff over time. We think that's going to bring people around, and then we're working on how power progression works, and we think that's also going to encourage people to keep playing.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
I wish I could.
Speaking of Gambit, if it's successful and popular, will you be open to a more competitive, like Iron Banner / Trials of the Nine version of that mode? Or
that's a great idea. Right now, we're focusing on launching it because it's a whole new activity. It's not a Crucible mode; it's something completely new. So it's going to have 4 maps. It's going to have a single playlist at first, and yeah, when people start playing it, we think we're going to start learning very quickly what they're looking for from the mode to do something next. But we do want to support it and see how it grows. And if we've learned anything from Destiny, it's like, let's put out something and then kind of collaborate with the community on what we think is a great idea, what they think is a great idea, and then evolve it that way.
What can you talk about now about how Crucible is going to change once Forsaken launches?
So even before Forsaken launches, we've already said there's going to be some permanent playlists, like Rumble's coming full-time and 6v6 quick play. And so those are the things we've announced, but there are a lot of exciting things coming in the Crucible that you're going to hear about soon. You guys got to play Gambit?
Yes.
What'd you think?
Oh, it was incredible. I loved it.
Yeah?
I thought it was very, very fun, yeah.
Did you get to invade?
Yes. Oh, I almost exclusively invaded, yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
I was kind of being a jerk, if anything, where if I saw that portal open, I wasn't letting anyone have a chance. I wanted to run in.
So what do you think? What do you think Gambit's going to do?
In what sense?
For the game.
Well, see, my thing is that I think there are a lot of people who, maybe didn't appreciate, like, for example, there's a lot of PvP changed a lot between Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 with the weapon loadouts, randomization, things like that. People, I think, if I didn't know about the weapon randomization already, that was kind of which I think is going to help a lot. I would say Gambit would be a really good way to kind of get PvE players more on that competitive side, kind of doing more competitive type activities instead of exclusively doing raid content, maybe getting bored and drifting off. But I think what I'm really excited about is that you guys are going to be not only having Gambit as like a competitive kind of co-op feel to it, where I think players are really going to be attracted to that. For me, I got more of a PvE player, and I think I kind of like that aspect of it. But I think combined with the PvP changes where people are going to be able to kind of have their loadout the way they want it again. Like, for example, I was a fusion rifle player in Destiny 1. I love fusion rifles. Pocket Infinity was my favorite gun ever. And one of the most broken weapons that I wish probably never see the light of day again. And when I found out that I couldn't just run around with a fusion rifle all the time, I still played a little bit of Crucible, but I definitely kind of drift as being more of a PvE type of player. I think I'm not the only one that kind of felt that way. So I think that combined with Gambit, we'll see more people kind of drifting back towards maybe splitting their time more between not just being a PvE type of player, kind of splitting the time a little bit more equally.
We're really hoping that since it's primarily a PvE mode that has a dash of PvP, that players that or maybe think of themselves as raiders or Crucible, or strikes or Crucible, can kind of smash together. And so you're going to see people that like optimize their loadout for being an invader, and those that like, nope, I'm focusing on killing monsters. When that invader comes, I'm going to go hide, or whatever. So there's different ways that people are going to engage, and we're really excited about that.